March 2007. U.S. Navy submarine USS Seawolf tracked a 64-foot contact moving at 23 knots in the North Atlantic. Impossible speed, impossible size. When we got visual confirmation, we realized we'd found something that went extinct 2.6 million years ago. Megalodons. And they were hunting us. This is Warborn Shadows. Hit subscribe now because what we found is still down there. A sonar contact that measures 64 feet long shouldn't be alive, but ours was moving at 23 knots and climbing toward the surface. I'm Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, United States Navy, former sonar officer aboard the USS Seawolf, a Virginia-class attack submarine. What I'm about to tell you happened in March 2007 in the North Atlantic, 300 nautical miles east of Newfoundland. We were on a routine patrol, tracking Russian submarine activity, mapping underwater terrain, standard Cold War leftover operations that never really ended. 12 officers, 108 enlisted men, operating at depths where sunlight is a memory and pressure can crush a steel like aluminum foil. Before I tell you what we found down there, you need to understand something about the ocean. We've mapped Mars better than we've mapped our own seafloor. We've sent more people to space than to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. And in the deep places, in the trenches and canyons where light has never reached, things survive that weren't supposed to survive. Things that evolution forgot to kill. Things that should be fossils. Have you ever felt like you were being hunted by something you couldn't see? Something so large that your mind refuses to process its size? Because after 6 days tracking what we found, I learned that the ocean doesn't give up its secrets willingly, and some things, once discovered, will do anything to stay hidden. The patrol began on March 3rd, 2007. We departed Naval Submarine Base New London at 0600 hours, submerged by 0800, and were running silent at 400 feet by noon. The mission briefing had been standard. A 60-day deployment tracking suspected Russian Akula-class submarines operating near the GIUK Gap, the stretch of ocean between Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom, where Soviet subs used to pass during the Cold War. Our captain, Commander Richard Hale, was old-school Navy, 30 years in submarines, had served on everything from boomers to fast attacks. He ran a tight ship, no mistakes, no excuses. His philosophy was simple. In a submarine, there's no such thing as a small problem. Every leak, every malfunction, every anomaly gets reported and fixed immediately, because at depth, small problems become fatal very quickly. The crew was experienced. My sonar team consisted of 5 specialists. Petty Officer First Class James Rivera, who could identify submarine signatures from acoustic patterns alone. Petty Officer Second Class David Chen, our systems analyst. Seaman Marcus Thompson, fresh out of A school but sharp. Seaman Aaron Walsh, quiet but thorough. And myself, coordinating all of it from the sonar station. For the first 4 days, everything was routine. We tracked 3 fishing vessels on the surface, logged 1 suspected Russian submarine contact that turned out to be a pod of whales, and mapped a section of the mid-Atlantic ridge that showed interesting geological activity. Standard operations. Boring, which in submarine service means safe. On March 7th, at 1437 hours, that changed. Rivera was on watch when he picked up the first anomaly. He called me over to his station, headphones pressed tight to his ears, eyes narrowed in concentration. "Sir, I have a biological contact, bearing 270, range approximately 8,000 yards, but the signature is wrong." I put on a headset, listened to the acoustic feed. Biologicals, whales, dolphins, fish schools, have distinctive signatures. You learn to recognize them. The frequency patterns, the rhythms, the way they move through water. This contact had biological characteristics, but the size was off. Classification? I asked. Can't determine, sir. Too large for any known whale species. Length estimate based on acoustic shadow is between 60 and 70 feet. Moving at, sir, it's moving at 23 knots. I looked at him. Check your equipment. Whales don't move at 23 knots. I've checked it twice, sir. Systems are nominal. That contact is moving at 23 knots and accelerating. I pulled up the display. The sonar showed a large object moving horizontally at our depth, 400 feet, approximately 2 miles away. The acoustic signature showed biological characteristics, muscle contractions, movement patterns consistent with a swimming organism. But the speed and size were impossible. Blue whales, the largest known animals, reach about 100 feet, but move at cruising speeds of 5 to 15 knots. Sperm whales can burst to 25 knots briefly, but only measure about 60 feet. This contact was 60+ feet, maintaining 23 knots steadily, not in bursts. Track it, I ordered. Log everything. If it maintains this speed for more than 5 minutes, I'm reporting to the captain. It maintained the speed for 17 minutes. Knocked on the captain's door at 14:55 hours. He looked up from the charts he'd been reviewing, read my expression. Problem? XO? Anomalous biological contact, sir. Large, fast, doesn't match any known species profile. He followed me to the sonar station. Rivera played back the audio, showed him the tracking data. Hale listened without interrupting, his face unreadable. Could it be a submarine? He asked. Russian or Chinese running a new stealth signature? Negative, sir, Rivera said. The acoustic profile is definitely biological. Muscle contractions, organic movement patterns, but the size and speed are outside normal parameters. Outside normal or impossible? Both, sir. Hale studied the display. Current heading. North-northwest, holding steady at 400 feet depth. Speed has decreased to 18 knots, but still maintaining. Is it aware of us? That was the question I'd been asking myself. The contact had appeared on our sensors 17 minutes ago, moving perpendicular to our course. It hadn't changed heading, hadn't reacted to our presence. Either it didn't know we were here, or it didn't care. Unknown, sir, I said. Hale made a decision. Alter course, follow it, maintain 2-mile separation, silent running protocols. I want to know what this is before we report it to Sublant. The last thing we need is to call in a contact that turns out to be a malfunction or a whale with unusual acoustics. We adjusted course to 270, matching the contact's heading. For the next 3 hours, we followed it across the North Atlantic. It maintained depth and speed with remarkable consistency. No variation, no deviation, like it was on autopilot. Chen pulled up historical sonar data, cross-referenced every known marine species. Nothing matched. He expanded the search to include extinct species, prehistoric marine life. At 17:23 hours, he called me over. Sir, you need to see this. He had a comparison on his screen. On the left, our contact's acoustic signature. On the right, a computer-generated model based on fossil records. Megalodon, he said quietly. Carcharicles megalodon, extinct for approximately 2.6 million years. Estimated maximum length, 60 feet. Estimated maximum speed, 25 knots in short bursts. I stared at the comparison. The profiles were nearly identical. That's impossible, I said. Yes, sir. But so is what we're tracking. I looked at the real-time sonar display. The contact was still there, still moving, still defying every rule of biology I knew. "Don't put that in the log yet," I said. "We need more data." But I was already thinking it, already considering the impossible. Because what else could it be? At 18:34 hours, the contact changed behavior. It stopped moving forward. Just stopped. Hung in the water at 400 feet, completely motionless. We stopped too, went to ultra-quiet, secured all non-essential systems. The submarine hung in the water like a held breath. "What's it doing?" Hale asked, standing behind the sonar station. "Unknown, sir," Rivera said. "No movement. But I'm picking up something else. Listen." He routed the audio to the overhead speakers. At first, nothing. Just the ambient sound of the ocean, the distant groan of the seafloor, the pop and crack of thermal layers, the whisper of current. Then I heard it. A sound. Low frequency. Rhythmic. Almost like clicking. But deeper than dolphin echolocation. More powerful. "It's vocalizing," Chen said, checking his instruments. Frequency range consistent with predator communication or echolocation, but the power output is off the charts. This thing is broadcasting at levels that would let it sense objects miles away. "It's hunting," Thompson said quietly. We all looked at him. He was the youngest on the team, but he'd grown up on the coast, spent time on fishing boats before joining the Navy. "My grandfather used to shark fish," he continued. "Great whites do this. They stop, they listen, they send out sounds to map their environment. Then they hunt." "Sharks don't vocalize," I said. "Most don't, but we don't know everything about them, especially deep water species. And if this thing is what Chen thinks it is..." He trailed off. The clicking continued, then stopped. Complete silence. The contact moved, not forward, down. It dove, dropping depth rapidly. 400 feet, 500, 600. Our sonar tracked it as it descended into the deeper water below us. "Should we follow?" I asked Hale. He shook his head. "Negative. We maintain depth. If it's diving to hunt, I don't want to be anywhere near its prey." Smart call. Because 30 seconds later, something else appeared on sonar. A massive school of something. Fish, probably. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands, forming a bait ball at 700 feet. The contact reached them at 18:47 hours. What happened next was recorded on our sonar but still doesn't make complete sense. The contact accelerated to over 30 knots. It tore through the bait ball like a missile. The acoustic signature showed massive disturbance. Water displacement, cavitation, the sound of thousands of fish being scattered or consumed. The feeding lasted for 4 minutes, then silence again. The contact ascended, slower now, heavy. It leveled off at 400 feet, 500 yards from our position. "Sir," Rivera said, his voice tight. "It's closer, much closer." "Did it move toward us?" Hale asked. "No, sir. It surfaced directly in our path, like it knew we'd be here." That was impossible. We were running silent. Our reactor made almost no noise. Our hull was designed to absorb sound rather than reflect it. There was no way a biological organism could detect us at this range. But it had positioned itself perfectly, dead ahead, blocking our course. "All stop," Hale ordered. "Maintain position. Maintain silence." The submarine drifted in the current, momentum carrying us forward slowly. The contact didn't move. It hung in the water ahead of us like a wall. "Active sonar," Hale said. "One ping. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." Active sonar is normally avoided in submarine operations. It gives away your position. But we needed visual confirmation, needed to know the shape and size of what we were tracking. "Aye, sir," Rivera said. He armed the system. Active sonar in 3, 2, 1. Transmitting. The ping went out. A powerful pulse of sound that traveled through the water, bounced off the contact and returned to our sensors. The image that appeared on our display made everyone in the sonar room go silent. 64 feet long, massive triangular head, body shaped like a torpedo, large tail fin, distinctive shark morphology. But the size was wrong. Sharks don't grow that large, haven't grown that large for millions of years. Jesus Christ, Chen whispered. The contact reacted to the ping. It turned, faced us directly, and then it moved. Not away, toward us, accelerating rapidly. Evasive, Hale shouted. Right full rudder, ahead flank. The submarine heeled over, reactor pushing us to maximum speed. But submarines aren't fast. We could do maybe 30 knots at flank. The contact was already doing that, and it was gaining. Range decreasing, Rivera called out. 400 yards, 300, 200. Dive, take us to 600 feet, Hale ordered. We dove, nose down, descending rapidly. The contact followed, matching our angle, still gaining. 100 yards, Rivera said. His voice was shaking now. On the sonar display, the contact was huge. It filled the screen. I could see the tail movements, the way it propelled itself through water with devastating efficiency. Could see it opening its mouth. 50 yards. Deploy countermeasure, Hale shouted. Noisemaker now. A crewman hit the button. A small device ejected from the submarine, swam away from us, emitting loud noise designed to confuse enemy torpedoes. The contact hesitated, turned slightly toward the noisemaker, its sonar or whatever sensory system it used, confused by the new sound. That hesitation saved us. We dove deeper, changed course, and sprinted away at maximum speed. The contact pursued the noisemaker for approximately 30 seconds, then turned back toward us. But we'd gained distance, 200 yards, 300, 500. At 19:03 hours, we leveled off at 800 feet, running southeast at maximum speed. The contact followed for another 3 miles. Then it stopped, hung in the water, and let us go. We maintained flank speed for 20 more minutes before Hale finally ordered us to slow. Back to normal patrol speed, back to 400 feet. But nobody relaxed. Everyone in that control room had seen the same thing, had watched something that shouldn't exist chase a nuclear submarine like prey. Status report, Hale said, his voice controlled but tight. The officer of the deck reported, no damage, all systems nominal, reactor operating normally, we're clear of the contact. Sonar? Rivera checked his display. Contact has not resumed pursuit. Bearing now 320, range 6 miles. It's just sitting there, sir, waiting. Hale turned to me. XO, compile all data, video, audio, sonar logs, everything. We're reporting this to Sublint immediately. I don't care if they think we're insane. Something is out here. Something big. And it just tried to attack a United States submarine. I nodded, started gathering the data. But I kept looking at the sonar display, at that contact sitting 6 miles away. Waiting. Like it knew we'd be back. Like it knew this wasn't over. Because the ocean is vast. And in the deep places, in the trenches where light doesn't reach and pressure would crush a human instantly, things survive. Things that remember when they ruled the seas. Things that don't appreciate trespassers. We'd found one, and it had found us. We transmitted the report to Sublint, Submarine Forces Atlantic Command, at 19:47 hours. via encrypted ELF communication. Extremely low-frequency radio, the only way to communicate with submerged submarines. The message was brief. Encountered unknown biological contact, extreme size, aggressive behavior, request guidance, continuing patrol. The response came back 4 hours later at 23:51 hours. I was in the wardroom with Hale and our executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, when the communications officer brought the decoded message. Hale read it aloud. Maintain current patrol zone. Monitor contact. Do not engage. Do not surface. Scientific team being consulted. Further orders forthcoming. Maintain radio silence except emergency. They don't believe us, Chen said flatly. They believe us enough to tell us to stay here, Hale replied. He looked at me. Where's the contact now? Last position was 6 miles northwest, bearing 320, but we lost it on passive sonar 40 minutes ago. Either it's moved out of range or it's gone quiet. Something that size doesn't go quiet, Chen said. It's still there, just not moving. Hale folded the message, slipped it into his pocket. We proceed with caution, standard patrol protocol but with enhanced sonar monitoring. I want someone on those sensors every second. If that thing moves, I want to know immediately. We maintained our position for the rest of the night. Crew rotated through watches. I tried to sleep for a few hours but couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that sonar image. 64 feet of prehistoric predator accelerating toward us with impossible speed. At 06:23 hours on March 8th, Rivera woke me by pounding on my door. Sir, you need to get to sonar. Now. I was up and moving in seconds. Arrived at the sonar station to find the entire watch section crowded around the displays. Report, I snapped. Rivera pointed at the screen. Sir, the contact is back, but it's not alone. The display showed 2 large contacts, both approximately 60 feet long, both showing the same biological signatures, both moving in formation at 18 knots, heading directly toward our position. 2 of them, I said quietly. Yes, sir. The second contact appeared 30 minutes ago. They met up at bearing 335, then changed course toward us. Current range is 4 miles and closing. I grabbed the phone, called the captain. He arrived within 90 seconds, still buttoning his uniform. He studied the display for 10 seconds. They're hunting together. Pack behavior. Great white sharks are typically solitary, Chen said. He'd pulled up his marine biology references again. But there have been observations of cooperative hunting in some shark species. If these are megalodons, they might retain pack behavior from their evolutionary ancestors. I don't care about evolutionary history, Hale said. I care that 2 massive predators are heading straight for us. Recommendations. We could run, I offered. Try to outpace them again. For how long? We can't run at flank speed indefinitely. We'd drain our reactor reserves, make noise, attract more attention, and they already know we're here. We could go deep, the officer of the deck suggested. Test their depth tolerance. Most sharks can't go below 1,000 feet. The pressure becomes too much. Hale nodded slowly. Do it. Dive the boat. Make our depth 1,000 feet. Slow descent. Let's see if they follow. We angled down, descending into the deeper water. The hull creaked slightly as the pressure increased. 400 feet, 600, 800, 1,000. We leveled off, and the sonar team watched the contacts. They followed, matched our depth exactly, still closing. They're pressure adapted, Chen said, checking his data. Most modern sharks can't operate at this depth, but megalodon fossils have been found in deep water environments. They may have been capable of much deeper dives than we thought. Range, Hale asked. 2 miles and closing, speed constant at 18 knots. We all watched the display. The two contacts moved in perfect synchronization, side by side, like military aircraft in formation. The precision was unsettling. At 07:14 hours, something changed. The contacts separated. One maintained course directly toward us. The other veered off, circling around to approach from a different angle. "They're flanking us," I said. Classic predator tactic. One distracts from the front while the other attacks from the side. Hale's face was grim. They're not just predators. They're intelligent predators. Weapons status? The weapons officer responded immediately. Torpedoes ready in tubes 1 and 2. But sir, weapons release will give away our exact position and generate significant noise. Noted. Do not arm them yet, but be ready. The front contact closed to 1 mile. The flanking contact was now approaching from bearing 180, directly behind us. We were being boxed in. Evasive maneuvers, Hale ordered. Left full rudder, ahead 2/3, shallow our depth to 800 feet. We turned hard, ascending slightly. The contacts adjusted immediately. The front one altered course to intercept. The rear one accelerated to cut us off. They were anticipating our movements, reacting faster than should be possible. It was like they could predict what we'd do. "How?" Chen said aloud, voicing what we were all thinking. "How are they tracking us this precisely? We're running silent. We're a stealth submarine specifically designed not to be detected." "Sharks have lateral lines," Thompson offered. "Sensory organs that detect water pressure changes. They can feel movement from hundreds of feet away. If these things have enhanced versions of that system, scaled up for their size, they might be able to sense our pressure wake from miles away." "Our pressure wake," I repeated. "The disturbance our hull makes moving through water." "Exactly. We can't eliminate it. It's physics. Any object moving through water creates pressure changes, and if they're sensitive enough, they can feel us no matter how quiet we are. Which meant we couldn't hide, couldn't run silently and slip away. They would always know where we were." "Recommendation?" Hale asked me. I thought fast. "We can't outrun them long term. We can't hide. But we can confuse them. If they're tracking pressure changes, we give them too many changes to track. We release countermeasures, deploy noisemakers, change depth and speed erratically. Overload their sensory systems." Hale nodded. "Do it. All countermeasures. Make it chaotic." We deployed 4 noisemakers simultaneously, each swimming away from us in different directions. Changed depth rapidly, up to 600 feet, then down to 1,200. Altered speed from ahead, full to dead slow, and back again. Changed course every 90 seconds. The contacts reacted. They split further apart, confused by the multiple signals. One pursued a noisemaker for 30 seconds before realizing it wasn't prey. The other overshot our position when we suddenly slowed, had to circle back. For 5 minutes, we gained separation. 800 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,500. Then both contacts stopped, just froze in the water at separate positions. And I realized they weren't confused anymore. They were adapting, learning. "They're figuring out our tactics," I said. "They know the noisemakers aren't us. They're waiting for us to move so they can track the real pressure signature." "Then we don't move," Hale said. "All stop, drift silently. Let's see how long they're willing to wait." We hung motionless in the water at 1,200 feet. The contacts remained stationary at their positions, one ahead of us at bearing 045, the other astern at bearing 220, a perfect pincer formation with us in the middle. The standoff lasted for 18 minutes. None of us spoke. We barely breathed. The submarine drifted on the current, completely passive. Then something appeared on sonar that made my blood go cold. "New contact," Rivera said quietly. "Bearing 180, range 8 miles. Similar acoustic signature to the first two." "Another one, sir. A third Megalodon." Hale closed his eyes briefly. "Of course there is." We watched as the third contact approached from the south. It was larger than the other two. Sonar estimated 70 feet. It moved faster too, 25 knots sustained speed. "That's the Alpha," Thompson said. "The dominant individual. The other two were driving us into its hunting ground." "You're saying they coordinated this?" Chen asked. "Across miles of ocean?" "Orcas do it. Wolves do it. Pack hunters communicate and coordinate. Why wouldn't these?" The third contact reached the other two at 0748 hours. All three held position in a triangle formation around us. We were in the center, completely surrounded. The large one was directly south. The other two northeast and northwest. They began vocalizing, all three of them, that same low-frequency clicking we'd heard before, but now they were answering each other. Call and response, a conversation. "Are they talking?" Rivera asked. "Communication," Chen confirmed, checking his readings. "Complex acoustic patterns. This isn't random. They're coordinating." The clicking stopped. Silence. Then all three moved simultaneously, converging on our position from 3 different angles. Coordinated attack. "Countermeasures," Hale shouted. "All tubes, deploy everything." We launched every noisemaker we had, 8 devices swimming away in different directions, creating a cacophony of sound. The contacts hesitated. 2 of them diverted briefly. But the large one didn't. It maintained course directly toward us. Range decreasing rapidly. 1 mile, half mile, quarter mile. "It's not fooled," I said. "It knows which one is us." "Weapons free," Hale ordered. "Target the large contact, fire on my command." The weapons officer armed a torpedo. "Firing solution ready, sir. Target locked." Hale watched the sonar. The large contact was 200 yards out, still closing, 100 yards. "Fire," Hale said. The torpedo launched with a hiss of compressed air, swam away from us toward the contact at 45 knots. Its active sonar pinged loudly, guiding itself to target. The large contact detected it immediately, dove deep. The torpedo pursued, but the Megalodon was faster in a dive. It dropped to 1,500 feet in seconds. The torpedo, struggling to match the depth change, lost its firing solution. The Megalodon leveled out at 1,500 feet, and the torpedo overshot, exploded harmlessly 200 yards beyond the target. "Miss," the weapons officer reported. But the explosion had an effect. All 3 contacts scattered, moved away rapidly. The sound and pressure wave from the torpedo detonation had startled them, driven them back. Within 2 minutes, they were gone from our sonar range, disappeared into the vast Atlantic. We were alone again. "Damage report," Hale ordered. "No damage. All systems nominal. We're secure." Hale sat down in his command chair, exhaled slowly. "Weapons inventory?" 6 torpedoes remaining. No noisemakers left. Countermeasure tubes empty. "So if they come back, we're almost defenseless," Chen said. Hale looked at me. "XO, prepare another report to Sublant. Tell them we've been engaged by multiple hostile biological contacts. Tell them we've expended weapons." and tell them we need immediate extraction orders because staying in this patrol zone is becoming untenable." I moved to draft the message. But before I could finish, Rivera called out from sonar. "Sir, I have a new contact, but not biological. This one's mechanical. Submarine. Bearing 090, range 20 miles. Russian acoustic signature. Definitely an Akula class." We all looked at each other. A Russian submarine. Here. Now. "Could be coincidence," Chen offered. "This is international water. They have as much right to be here as we do." "I don't believe in coincidence," Hale said. "Not with timing this perfect. Track that submarine. Find out what they're doing." Over the next 3 hours, we shadowed the Russian boat from 20 miles distance. They were moving slowly, methodically, conducting a search pattern. "They're looking for something," I said, watching their course on the plot. "Or tracking the same thing we are," Thompson suggested. At 11:34 hours, the Russian submarine stopped, went silent. 5 minutes later, we picked up new acoustic signatures on sonar. The Megalodons, all 3 of them, approaching the Russian submarine from different angles. "They found them," Rivera said. "Or the sharks found them." We listened helplessly as the same scenario played out. The Russian submarine tried evasive maneuvers, deployed countermeasures, changed depth and course, but the Megalodons pursued relentlessly. At 11:47 hours, we heard a torpedo launch. The Russians had opened fire. The explosion echoed through the water seconds later. "Did they hit?" Hale asked. Rivera checked his display. "Negative miss. Contacts are still active, still pursuing." Another torpedo, another miss. The sharks were learning. They knew what the torpedoes were now, knew how to evade them. Then we heard something else. A terrible sound transmitted through the water. Metal screaming, hull breach. The distinctive acoustic signature of a submarine in distress. "They hit them," I said quietly. "The sharks damaged the Russian boat." We listened to the chaos. Emergency blow procedures. The Russian submarine surfacing rapidly, forcing air into ballast tanks, breaking through to the surface. The sound of high-pressure air venting, hatches opening, men shouting in Russian. Then silence. The acoustic trail went cold. "Surface craft," Rivera reported. "Multiple contacts, small boats, life rafts. The crew is abandoning ship." "And the Megalodons?" Hale asked. "Still there, circling the area, not attacking the survivors, but watching, waiting." Hale stood. "Set course for the Russian position, ahead full. We're going to render assistance." "Sir," Chen protested, "if we surface, we expose ourselves. The sharks will—" "I know the risk, but those are sailors in the water. I don't care what flag they serve under. We don't leave people to drown. Nav, plot intercept course. We'll approach carefully, but we're going to help." We reached the position at 12:23 hours. Raised periscope depth carefully, scanning for threats. The scene on the surface was chaos. The Russian submarine was listing badly, half submerged, water pouring into a massive breach in its hull near the sail. 3 life rafts floated nearby with approximately 25 men visible. More were in the water, swimming toward the rafts. And circling below, visible even from our depth, 3 massive shadows, the Megalodons, patrolling, not attacking, just present. A reminder that they owned this water. "Surface the boat," Hale ordered. "Battle stations, weapons ready, but hold fire unless they attack." We surfaced slowly. The sail broke through into air. Hatches opened. The bridge watch climbed up into daylight. I followed Hale up the ladder. The North Atlantic stretched around us, gray and cold. 300 meters away, the Russian submarine was sinking. The crew in the raft saw us, began waving, shouting. Hale grabbed the radio. "Russian submarine. This is U.S. Navy submarine Seawolf. We are rendering assistance. Prepare to receive rescue." A Russian voice responded in accented English. "American submarine, thank you. We have injured. Need immediate medical." Our rescue team deployed a Zodiac boat, started pulling Russian sailors from the water. It took 45 minutes to get all of them aboard. 28 men total, 3 seriously injured. All of them exhausted, traumatized. The Russian captain was the last to come aboard. He climbed up to our bridge, extended his hand to Hale. "Captain Dmitry Volkov, Akula-class submarine Leopard. Thank you for saving my men." "Commander Richard Hale. What happened down there, Captain?" Volkov looked out at the water where his submarine was disappearing beneath the waves. "We were tracking anomalous biological contacts. Large, aggressive, 3 of them. They attacked us, damaged our hull. We barely made it to the surface." "We encountered the same contacts," Hale said. "Did you get a visual confirmation?" "One of my men did. Before we abandoned ship, he said..." Volkov hesitated. "He said they looked like sharks, but impossibly large, bigger than any shark should be." "Megalodons," I said. Volkov looked at me sharply. "You know what they are?" "We've been tracking them for 2 days. They're real, they're aggressive, and they're hunting anything that enters their territory." The Russian captain nodded slowly. "Then we have a problem. Because if these creatures are real, if they're active in the North Atlantic, they will kill again. Submarines, surface ships, anyone who ventures into deep water. This is not just a military issue. This is a threat to all maritime operations." He was right. And as I looked out at the water where 3 massive predators circled below, I realized this was bigger than Cold War rivalries or classified operations. Something that shouldn't exist was alive in our oceans, and it was hungry. We submerged at 13:42 hours with 28 Russian sailors crammed into spaces designed for a crew already operating at capacity. The Russians were distributed throughout the boat, some in crew berthing, others in the torpedo room, a few in the engine spaces. Captain Volkov remained on the bridge with us, insisting he could provide intelligence about the creature's behavior. "They demonstrated tactical awareness," he said, studying our sonar displays. "When we first encountered them, they appeared random, curious. But the second encounter, they were coordinated. They knew our weaknesses, targeted our ballast tank vents. That's not instinct, that's intelligence." Hale nodded grimly. "We observed the same learning behavior. They adapted to our countermeasures within minutes, figured out which signals were real and which were decoys. The question," I said, "is whether they're actually intelligent or just highly evolved predators with sophisticated hunting instincts." "Does it matter?" Volkov asked. "Either way, they're effective killers." Rivera interrupted from sonar. "Sir, contacts are back. All 3. Bearing 270, range 4 miles. They're following us." We all turned to the display. The 3 Megalodons were moving in formation again, tracking our course at a distance. Not closing, not attacking, just following. "They're learning from us too," Chen said. "Every time we encounter them, they gather more data about how we move, how we react. We're teaching them how to hunt submarines." Hale grabbed the encrypted phone to communications. "Get me Sublent, Priority Alpha. I need to speak with the Admiral directly." It took 12 minutes to establish the connection through the ELF system. When the Admiral came on, Hale didn't waste time on protocol. "Admiral, Commander Hale, USS Seawolf." "Sir, situation has escalated. We have encountered hostile biological contacts multiple times. These contacts have now damaged and sunk a Russian Akula-class submarine. We have recovered their crew. 28 Russian sailors are currently aboard my boat, and the hostile contacts are actively pursuing us. We need immediate guidance. Static. Then Admiral Morrison's voice tense. Commander, you're telling me you have Russian military personnel on a U.S. nuclear submarine? Yes, sir. We rendered assistance after their submarine was destroyed by the biological contacts I've been reporting. And these biological contacts, you maintain their Megalodons? Based on size, behavior, and acoustic profile, yes, sir. I have a marine biology specialist aboard who's confirmed the signature match. I also have the Russian captain who witnessed the attack. Admiral, these things are real. They're aggressive, and they're in active shipping lanes. This is going to become a significant problem if we don't address it immediately. Another long pause. Stand by, Commander. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, the Admiral returned. Commander Hale, you are ordered to proceed to coordinates November 427. That position is approximately 60 miles east of your current location. A surface vessel will meet you there for transfer of the Russian personnel. After transfer, you will continue tracking the biological contacts. A scientific team is being mobilized. ETA to your position is 36 hours. You are to gather as much data as possible and maintain contact with the targets without engagement unless necessary for survival. Understood? Understood, sir. But Admiral, we're low on countermeasures and have already expended 1 torpedo. If they attack again, you have 6 torpedoes remaining. Make them count. Morrison out. The line went dead. We changed course to the transfer coordinates. The Megalodons followed, maintaining that 4-mile distance, never closing, never falling back, just tracking us across the Atlantic. They're hurting us, Volkov said, watching the plot. In Russia, we have wolves. They hunt like this, patient, persistent. They follow prey for hours, days even, until the prey exhausts itself. Then they attack. Submarines don't exhaust, Hale said. We can run for months on our reactor. But your crew can't. Look at them. He was right. The crew was showing signs of strain. 2 days of high-stress operations, constant threat, cramped conditions made worse by the additional bodies aboard. I could see it in their faces. The tight expressions, the short tempers, the way they jumped at unexpected sounds. And the Russians weren't helping. They were grateful to be alive, but they were traumatized. Several had witnessed their submarine being torn open by something that shouldn't exist. One kept muttering in Russian, rocking back and forth. Another refused to eat, convinced we were all going to die down here. At 16:34 hours, we reached the transfer coordinates, slowly ascended to periscope depth. The surface was rougher now, 12-foot swells, gray sky, rain. Surface contact, Rivera reported. Bearing 090, range 5 miles, designate Sierra 1, appears to be a Coast Guard cutter. Hale raised the periscope, confirmed visually. That's our transfer vessel. Prepare the Russian crew for evacuation. But as we prepared to surface, Rivera called out again. Sir, the biological contacts are ascending, following us up. They're at 200 feet and rising. They know we're surfacing, I said. They're timing it. Hale made a decision. Full surface, battle stations. Get those Russians off this boat in 5 minutes. If those sharks breach while we're vulnerable, I want weapons ready. We exploded to the surface, hatches popping open immediately. The Russian crew scrambled up the ladders and onto the deck. The Coast Guard cutter, USCG Hamilton, was already launching a rescue boat. I was on the bridge with Hale, scanning the water. The waves made visibility poor, but I could see darker shapes moving beneath the surface. Large, circling. "They're here," I called down. "Move faster." The Russians piled into the rescue boat. Volkov was the last to leave. He stopped at the top of the ladder, turned to Hale. "Commander, I will report this to my superiors. The Kremlin needs to know what destroyed our submarine, but I suspect they will not believe me, just as your admirals do not believe you." "If they don't believe us, more people will die," Hale said. "Then we must make them believe. I will share our data, sonar recordings, photographs of the hull damage, whatever evidence we have. We are no longer enemies, Commander. Not when we face something like this." He saluted. Hale returned it. Then Volkov descended to the rescue boat, which immediately pulled away toward the cutter. "Sir?" Rivera's voice crackled over the intercom. "Contact is moving. Bearing 180, ascending rapidly." I looked aft, saw the water bulge, a massive shape rising. "Dive the boat," Hale shouted. "Emergency dive, clear the bridge." We scrambled down the ladder as the klaxon blared. The hatch slammed shut above us. The submarine's bow tilted down, ballast tanks flooding. But we weren't fast enough. The impact hit our stern like a freight train. The entire submarine shuddered. Men were thrown against bulkheads. Equipment tore loose. Alarms screamed. "Damage report," Hale yelled, pulling himself up from where he'd fallen. Reports came in from throughout the boat. "Hull breach in engine room, water ingress. Rudder damaged, limited steering control. Reactor is secure, but we have hydraulic failure on the port side." We were still diving, but sluggishly. The controls weren't responding properly. The submarine wanted to roll to port, damaged rudder causing unwanted yaw. "Level us out," Hale ordered. "Damage control teams to the engine room. I want that breach sealed." The submarine fought against the controls, but the crew compensated. We leveled at 300 feet, listing 5 degrees to port. Behind us, the water boomed with another impact. The Megalodon had struck us again. "It's ramming us," I said, checking the sonar. "Targeting the stern, trying to disable our propulsion." "Speed?" Hale asked. 4 knots maximum. The damaged rudder is creating drag. If we go faster, we risk tearing it completely off." Which meant we couldn't run, couldn't maneuver effectively. We were wounded prey. The other 2 Megalodons appeared on sonar, closing from different angles. They sensed our weakness. We're moving in for the kill. "Weapon status?" Hale demanded. "Tubes 1 and 2 ready. 4 torpedoes remaining in reserve. Target all 3 contacts. Firing solution continuous. Fire when ready." 2 torpedoes launched simultaneously, swam away toward the nearest threats. The Megalodons detected them immediately, took evasive action, but our weapons officer had learned from the previous engagement. He'd programmed the torpedoes for proximity detonation rather than direct impact. The first torpedo exploded 30 feet from the large Megalodon. The pressure wave hit it like a hammer. It convulsed, dove deep, disappeared from sonar. The second torpedo missed its target. The Megalodon was too fast, too agile. It circled back toward us. "Reload tubes," Hale ordered. "Prepare for close-range engagement." But before we could reload, the damaged Megalodon returned, not fleeing, attacking, enraged. It accelerated to maximum speed and struck our sail. The impact was catastrophic. The entire submarine rang like a bell. Metal screamed. The sail, the vertical structure that houses our periscopes and antennas, crumpled partially. Men in the control room were thrown to the deck. "Fire suppression in the control room," someone shouted. Smoke was pouring from damaged electrical panels. "Switch to auxiliary controls," Hale commanded. Get me propulsion. Get me steering. We were dying. Slowly. Our submarine was being battered by creatures that weighed 15 tons each and could accelerate to 30 knots. We couldn't outrun them. Our weapons were too slow to target them, and our hull, designed to withstand pressure, wasn't designed to handle impacts from living battering rams. "Sir," I said quietly, "we need to surface. Get the crew off. Call for emergency rescue." Hale looked at me. His face was gray. He knew I was right, but surfacing meant abandoning the submarine, meant losing a billion-dollar asset, meant admitting defeat. "Prepare to surface," he said finally. "All hands prepare to abandon ship." But before we could execute the order, something changed. The Megalodons stopped attacking, all three of them. They broke off, moved away rapidly. Within 60 seconds, they were gone from sonar range. "Where are they going?" Hale asked. Rivera checked his displays, adjusted filters. "Sir, I'm picking up something else. Multiple contacts, very large, biological. Range 12 miles and closing. Different acoustic signature from the Megalodons." "Different how?" I asked. "Higher frequency vocalizations, different movement patterns, and bigger, much bigger. I'm reading estimated lengths of, sir, I'm reading lengths of 80 to 90 feet. We all stared at him. 90 feet. That was blue whale territory, the largest animals on Earth. But blue whales didn't vocalize at those frequencies, and they didn't move in coordinated groups. "How many?" Hale asked. 6. No, 7. They're in formation, organized. And sir, the Megalodons are running from them. Whatever was approaching, it scared the sharks, and that terrified me more than the Megalodons had. "Can we move?" Hale asked the engineering officer. "Yes, sir. 3 knots maximum. The hull is compromised but stable. We can maneuver, but not quickly. Then we move. Get us away from here, north, best possible speed." We limped northward, damaged and leaking, while the new contacts closed the distance. They were moving at 15 knots. Steady, deliberate, not rushing, just approaching with the confidence of apex predators that had nothing to fear. At 17:53 hours, they reached our position, passed beneath us at a depth of 500 feet, and for the first time, we got clear sonar imaging of what they were. "Whales," Chen said, studying the returns, "but not any species I recognize. The body plan is wrong, too elongated, too streamlined, and those teeth. Whales don't have teeth like that," Thompson said. On the sonar image, we could see them clearly. 90 feet long, powerful tails. But the heads were wrong, too predatory. And when one of them opened its mouth to vocalize, the sonar showed rows of teeth. Big teeth. Killer teeth. "Basilosaurus," Chen said suddenly. "That's what they look like. Basilosaurus cetoides, prehistoric whales from the Eocene epoch, extinct for 36 million years. But they were apex predators, hunted other whales, had teeth like sharks." "Are you telling me we've gone from megalodons to prehistoric killer whales?" Hale asked. "I'm telling you that whatever ecosystem exists in the deep Atlantic, it's not modern. These creatures shouldn't exist. But they do, and they're all predators." The basilosaurs circled us once. We held our breath, waiting for attack. But they didn't strike. They just observed. 7 massive predators examining the damaged submarine like scientists studying a specimen. Then they moved on, headed south, toward where the megalodons had fled. "They're hunting the sharks," Volkov's voice said from behind us. We'd forgotten he was still aboard. He'd refused to leave with his crew, insisted on staying to help document everything. "The food chain," he continued. "Even apex predators have predators. The Megalodons rule certain territories, but something bigger rules the deep water, something older. We limped back to base over the next 48 hours, surfaced most of the way because our diving controls were unreliable. The Coast Guard provided escort. Fighter aircraft flew overhead. Every naval asset in the Atlantic was on alert. We didn't encounter the creatures again, but we tracked them on long-range sonar. The Megalodons had fled to shallower water, closer to the continental shelf. The basilosaurs remained in the deep patrolling areas where the seafloor dropped to abyssal depths. When we finally pulled into port at Naval Submarine Base New London on March 12, 2007, we were met by security forces, intelligence officers, and a team of scientists that included marine biologists, paleontologists, and cryptozoologists. They debriefed us for 6 days, reviewed every second of sonar data, analyzed the acoustic recordings, studied the damage to our hull. The evidence was irrefutable. Something was alive in the Atlantic that shouldn't be. Multiple somethings, an entire ecosystem of prehistoric predators that had somehow survived extinction and adapted to the deep ocean. The official report classified everything. The incident was logged as equipment malfunction and collision with unknown submerged object. Our crew was sworn to secrecy. The Russian government was informed through back channels but agreed to the cover story to avoid international panic. Captain Volkov returned to Russia with a similar story to tell his superiors. We stayed in contact through encrypted channels. He reported that the Russian Navy had quietly suspended certain deep-water operations in the North Atlantic. They'd lost a submarine and weren't eager to lose more. The scientific team concluded that the deep ocean, particularly the trenches and abyssal plains, contains ecosystems we've barely explored. That creatures thought extinct might have survived in these environments, cut off from the surface world, evolving in isolation for millions of years. They recommended a comprehensive deep ocean survey, mapping and cataloging of large predator populations, establishment of exclusion zones where submarine operations would be prohibited. But those recommendations were filed away, classified, buried, because acknowledging the existence of these creatures would require explaining why we'd kept it secret, would require restricting commercial shipping, fishing, and military operations across huge swaths of ocean, would cause economic and strategic chaos. So the Navy did what militaries do. They adapted quietly. Submarine patrol routes were adjusted. Certain depths and locations were marked as high risk. Protocols were developed for encountering hostile biological contacts. But publicly, nothing changed. The world continued believing that megalodons were extinct, that the deep ocean was understood and mapped. I left the Navy in 2009. Took my pension and tried to build a normal life. But you don't forget something like that. You don't forget being hunted by something that shouldn't exist. You don't forget watching a submarine get torn apart by teeth the size of dinner plates. And you don't forget that we only explored a fraction of what's down there, that the megalodons and basilosaurs we encountered might just be the most visible predators in an entire ecosystem of prehistoric survivors. The ocean covers 70% of Earth's surface. We've explored less than 5% of it. The rest is darkness, pressure, cold. And in those depths, things survive that we thought were lost to time. I still have nightmares. Dreams where I'm back in that submarine, watching sonar contacts close in from all sides. Where I hear that clicking sound, the hunting call of something massive and hungry. Where I feel the submarine shudder under impact from creatures that weigh more than tanks and move faster than torpedoes. Captain Hale died in 2015. Heart attack. But before he died, he sent me a message. One line. They're still there, and they're spreading. He'd kept monitoring reports, tracking incidents, unexplained submarine disappearances, ships that vanished in calm weather, fishing boats that never returned, a pattern emerging across the Atlantic and now spreading to the Pacific. Chen still works for the Navy, I can't tell you where, but he emails occasionally. Never anything specific, just observations. Interesting sonar data from the Philippine Trench. Unusual predator activity near the Mariana. Remember what we saw in 07 might not be isolated. Thompson became a marine biologist, dedicated his career to deep ocean research. He won't talk about the mission directly, but his published papers all circle the same theme. The deep ocean contains species thought extinct, megafauna that survived because we never looked in the right places. And Volkov? I lost contact with him in 2012. His last message was simple. My government wants me to stop looking, but I can't, because I know what's down there, and someone needs to keep watching. That's why I'm telling you this story, not to scare you, not to create panic, but to tell you the truth that our governments won't. The ocean is not empty, the deep water is not lifeless, and the creatures we thought were extinct, some of them never died. They just went deeper, adapted, survived. And now, as we push further into their territory with our submarines and deep-sea mining and offshore drilling, we're going to encounter them more frequently. When you hear about unexplained submarine accidents, think about what I've told you. When ships disappear in calm seas, consider what might be below. When scientists talk about unknown large biological contacts in the deep ocean, understand that they're using careful language to avoid saying what they really mean. There are monsters in the ocean, real ones, not myths, not legends, actual prehistoric predators that rule the deep water the way they ruled it 60 million years ago. We found them in 2007. We documented them. We were hunted by them. And then we were ordered to forget them. But I can't forget. None of us can. Because once you've seen something like that, once you've looked into the dark water and seen something looking back, you never feel safe near the ocean again. My name is Marcus Webb. I was a sonar officer on a U.S. Navy submarine, and in March 2007, I learned that extinction is a theory, not a fact, that the ocean keeps secrets better than any government, and that humanity is not the apex predator we think we are. We're just visitors in an environment we don't understand, swimming in water that belongs to creatures far older, far larger, and far more dangerous than we'll ever be. And they're still down there, waiting, watching, hunting, just beneath the surface.